Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
Wendy.
Mike.
I am so excited this week.
You're so excited.
Yeah, number one, because it's almost fall, and fall is my favorite time of year.
Oh, it is a nice time of year.
The traditional fall just starts this weekend with the Labor Day weekend here in the United States. And I just love fall because that means we're getting closer to Halloween.
That's right. And we're recording this on the Friday before Labor Day. So
yes,
we've got the final summer weekend ahead of us here. But yeah, Halloween really is creeping up, and I'm starting to see, the Halloween candy and the costumes and things in the stores. That always makes me excited.
Yes. So it's coming up on my favorite time of year. And summer's okay. And I've learned to appreciate summer more. As an adult, I hate winter more and love summer more. When I just kind of, winter didn't bother me as a kid as much. But now I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait till the summer.
I agree.
But I still get excited about the fall because that means the weather's going to be perfect. September is the best time to be in Wisconsin. And the leaves are going to change, and people are going to start dressing up like vampires, and other people won't look at them weirdly.
That's right.
So that is what I'm really excited about. So I'm excited about that this week, and I'm excited about something else.
You are? Well, what could that possibly be?
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It is another 5-star review.
Oh man!
1, 2, 3, 4, fifth star review on iTunes this week.
Well, that's very exciting. I didn't even know about it.
Yes, from Walking Muppet, which is kind of funny because if you think about it, besides like Sweetums, the huge Muppet,
you don't see their legs.
You never see their legs. So of course I'm like, Walking Muppet. What does that mean? Oh my God, it's a Muppet with legs.
Like I used to like the very rare times on Sesame Street when Kermit, you'd see him like pedaling a bike or something like that.
Right. Or when they sat on the rock, he'd sit on a rock or whatever, and somebody would have to like sneak their hand up behind the rock and everything. So the Walking Muppet says, "See you on the next episode. Excellent, well researched, and funny."
Hey, who knew?
So all I gotta say is, Walking Muppet knows exactly what they're talking about.
Thank you, Walking Muppet. Thanks for taking the time to go into iTunes and leave us that review. Always appreciate that.
Awesome. And anybody that decides to leave a 5-star review on the Tunes of I, we are always happy to read those on the air, especially if you have a clever name. We love clever names.
But any name will do.
Any name. Like, you don't have to change your name to be clever and wait to put a review on. Like, you should just make it happen. And we'll call you clever anyway because you left a 5-star review.
Yes.
So those are two things that I'm excited about. What are you excited about this week, Wendy?
I got really excited about some of the news that came out this week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Radio signal from outer space.
Oh, yeah, the radio signal from outer space.
It's always fun getting news like that, giving a little spark of hope that somebody out there is trying to reach us or trying to reach anyone.
And this one in particular, too, because, I comb the paranormal news every week. And we have we See You on the Other Side paranormal newsletter that goes out on Friday mornings, where you get the 5 best paranormal stories every week. Plus, we sneak a paranormal song in there, a great paranormal song. This week's was Santeria, I think, was the one, because there was a Santeria story coming out of Spain. But, okay. So, I comb the news, and every week there's some kind of, alien... But it's all tabloid stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And every week they see something weird by the International Space Station, and NASA shuts the video. NASA shuts video feed down because the UFO spotted by the International Space Station every single week. And I'm like, oh my God, it's here. We've got it. We got NASA by the short and curly. We always wanted them. And what happens is just all crap. Like, it's never anything good. I watch these things. I get all excited. and it's nothing. So this week, I let myself get excited because all the scientists were excited.
Yeah, and that's a big deal.
That is a big deal, I think.
And I always get excited when news comes from SETI because I remember back when we were in college and the SETI screensaver came out and everybody had it running on their computer.
Oh, yeah.
And it was all like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to help find aliens.
Right. When I was working at the Division of Information Technology, University of Wisconsin, we ran all of the like the showroom computers. So like all the really fast ones, we would run SETI at home.
So you were scooping up lots of points.
Absolutely scooping up lots of points because we wanted to be the ones who, because you think, and this was 20 years ago, Mike. So so just to let the people at home know, SETI at home was a thing called distributed computing. And what you would do is you would run calculations on your computer when a screensaver would normally run. So instead of Mystify Your Mind or, the lava lamp or whatever was running on your screensaver, you would run SETI at home and would run calculations from these radio telescopes. And the thing is, we all thought, well, with this distributed computing and all this computing power over the world, we're going to be able to find the alien signal like this.
Right.
We thought it would happen like in a week.
No.
Okay. 20 years later, we didn't find an alien.
But
the Russians did. So, let's get right into it. Okay. The signal detected in 2015. Russian astronomers were using this radio telescope in, you know what? And I'm going to butcher this name.
Okay.
But that's okay. So I'm going to should I say it like Boris?
Yeah, you should.
Zelenchukskaya at the foot of the Caucasus Mountains north of Georgia. The discovery drew notice because of the signal's design and quote unquote beam shape. And that's a direct quote from Seth Shostak, who we've talked about on the show before, but he's the senior astronomer at SETI. It's the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And he's kind of the voice. So whenever people think SETI, they kind of think Seth Shostak because he's the face that's always on television and radio when it comes to that. So the signal came from the star system HD 164595, which I think I just bought that camera.
And I'm about to go buy that lottery ticket.
And oh my God, that's right. 164595. You guys put that into Lotto and see if it wins this week. Because we could have won the cosmic lottery.
Right.
It sits in the Hercules constellation, and it's got a star that's about the same size as our sun. So, that's what was a big deal.
Yeah.
'Cause this came out that the Russians announced that they had heard something.
Okay.
And so this is the latest signal that might have come out. But the thing is, if it is an alien signal, to come from that far away, the kind of transmission it was, it would require an enormous amount of energy. Like, they said so much energy, it would require basically harnessing the power of the sun.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a substantial amount of energy.
When I say harnessing the power of the sun, I'm not talking about like a solar-powered calculator.
You mean the entire sun itself?
I mean the whole sun, not a little sun rays. I'm not talking about, I think Elon Musk is great and those rechargeable batteries and solar batteries are going to be great. But this is like surrounding the sun and a Dyson sphere civilization. Okay?
Okay.
All right. We're going to get to that.
Sure.
We're going to get to that in a second. Now, the kind of civilization that would have to be would, number one, have to have the technology to be able to harness the power of an entire star, which is a huge deal. And there's a guy back in the 60s, another Russian, by the name of Kardashev, who developed a scale kind of based on the kind of technology that a civilization would have. So the Kardashev scale are these different types of civilizations, and he ranked them based on the magnitude of power available to them. Now, a type 1 civilization, according to this Kardashev character, is a civilization that can harness the power of their entire planet. Okay? So it's a little past where we are. We can't kind of harness all of the energy of the entire planet. We're working on it, but we can't do it. Now, a type 2 civilization is capable of harnessing the energy radiated by its own star. For example, the stage of the successful construction of a Dyson sphere. So a Dyson sphere is
it's a vacuum, right?
yeah, that's right.
It doesn't lose suction.
It's a vacuum that never loses suction as it goes from space. You're thinking of the Dyson black hole. It's a completely different thing, and you can't get it at Target.
Oh.
But the Dyson sphere is, now let's say we could build a structure that could actually encompass the sun. Okay?
Okay.
And so if we could actually build a structure that could actually go around the sun.
That's big.
First of all, that would be the biggest structure ever.
It's huge.
Oh man, that's a crazy big structure. Baby, look at that Dyson sphere, baby. That's huge. Tiny Elvis. And so the Dyson sphere would surround the entire, and we'd be able to use all the power it creates to do whatever we wanted with it, to send messages out to the other side of the galaxy, to travel to the other side of the galaxy, to all the kind of power that people say that we would require to do crazy things like faster than light travel. Well, they said if we can do faster than light travel, you would need such a crazy amount of power. You'd need the power of a star.
Okay.
So that's what the Dyson sphere is possible with. Now, there is a book series called Hyperion, written by a guy named Dan Simmons, and there's a bunch of characters. This takes place in the far future of humanity, and there's a bunch of characters that like live inside a Dyson sphere. So if you're interested in knowing kind of what a fictional representation of a Dyson sphere would be like, then that's an excellent book series to read, Hyperion. Or there's a Star Trek episode that has a Dyson sphere in it. Star Trek: The Next Generation, actually. It's got Scotty. It's the one where Scotty shows up in The Next Generation. Like everybody thinks he's dead, and he's not.
Oh, awesome.
You know, he's like caught in a transporter beam or whatever, and then he shows up on the new Enterprise, and he feels, the episode's called Relics.
Okay.
And you know how Scotty was always saving the day with his last minute.
Yeah.
Like, I figured it out, Captain. I got it. Well, he can't do that on the Next Generation Enterprise because it's way past his technology.
Oh.
So it's kind of how Scotty, it's just how Scotty feels like a relic. He doesn't feel the same. Well, how he originally got lost in the first place is that he was exploring a Dyson sphere, an alien Dyson sphere civilization. So that's where that episode begins. Relics. If you're up for a little Star Trek: The Next Generation, I think you can find that one on Netflix. That's a fun one. But anyways, the reason I wanted to talk about that was the fact that everybody's so excited to get these kind of messages because any civilization that had that kind of technology, we'd be able to see them.
Right.
You know, they might be able to show up.
Yeah.
Like they send a message, like an RSVP or something like that. We did send out the Voyager satellite with that,
That's right.
with that gold record on it. So we sent out the Voyager satellite with the gold, and they use that in so many science fiction shows that the aliens that was in the show V, that the aliens had found the Voyager satellite, and that's how they knew where Earth was.
Right.
And there's a couple other shows too. It's like, we led them to us.
V'ger.
Yeah, from the original motion picture. That's a classic. If you got three and a half hours. So if the aliens could have that potential of power, that means they might be able to come visit, which would be pretty awesome. So that's one of the reasons people get excited. So that's a type 2 Kardashev civilization is able to harness the power of a star.
Okay.
Able to build a Dyson sphere. Now, a type 3 civilization means they could harness the power of their galaxy.
Ooh, look out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what you could do with that.
It blows my little human mind.
Yeah, what would you do with the power of a galaxy? You'd never have to charge your iPhone again.
You'd be the master of the universe.
Right. That's about it. So Michio Kaku, he's that cool-looking silver-haired scientist. He's like a theoretical physicist that it's okay to talk about weird stuff. He's pretty cool with it. But he keeps it very scientific. But they use him for all the science fiction stuff and on documentaries and everything. And he says that humans might attain type 1 status in 100 to 200 years. Type 2 status, which would be a Dyson sphere, in several thousand years.
Yeah, that's
and type 3 status. Type 3 in 1,000,000 years. Well, now humans haven't even been around a million years. And when you think a million years ago, we were basically good-looking apes. You know, to think about to where, so we were good-looking apes, and now we have Snapchat. So think about the technological jump it would be to get to a type 3 civilization in a million years.
Well, some of those Snapchat things are pretty advanced, you know, when they turn you into a reptile character or like.
Yeah, no, the Snapchat effect stuff is what makes it fun. Like it. Hey, we all love the face swap.
Right.
We all love the face swap. So that's one of the reasons they're excited about getting this kind of signal from somewhere that far away, because they would have to have a wicked amount of energy, which means it'd be a really advanced civilization.
Yeah.
Which would be super exciting. So that's pretty exciting. But how are they seeing these things? You know, I guess we haven't talked about what a radio telescope is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
We all know what a telescope is. Like everybody had one as a kid or something. We know what binoculars are. You know what visible light telescopes are. But if you ask somebody like, well, what does a radio telescope do? They might just be like, I don't know, it picks up radio waves. You would be correct. But it is like the radio in your car. It does pick up, radio waves that goes over. But obviously it's a lot bigger because the radio in your car, like the antenna, is like that little strip on the back or whatever. And some cars still have those actual antennas. But the radio telescope is much bigger, more sensitive, and it's able to create a visual picture of the signals it receives. So they can create a picture of the sky of what radio waves are in the sky. So it's looking for waves that are completely invisible to the human eyes. That's kind of so a radio telescope is like a gigantic antenna for picking up those things.
Yeah.
And it's able to represent what the sky looks like as far as energy goes.
Okay. And that's like in the movie Contact, where they have the big like, satellite dishes all pointing up. That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah. Well, you know what it makes me think of?
What?
Goldeneye.
Oh, yeah.
So the very end of Goldeneye actually takes place at the radio telescope in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. And I've got a picture of me at the radio telescope in Arecibo, Puerto Rico that I'll put up because I had to make a pilgrimage there on a trip to Puerto Rico.
Fun.
Because you wanted to see. And also, when I used to do SETI at home, it would always be, that's where my SETI messages were coming from, the radio telescope at Arecibo. And it's like up this really green, huge mountain.
Okay.
And it's not like right by the freeway. It takes like a half an hour to get there from the freeway.
Wow.
So you drive up the mountain, and there's a little visitor center, and I've got a little Arecibo like coffee thermos. That was my thing. I'm like, hey.
That's cool.
It was the world's biggest radio telescope for a long time. And at the end of Goldeneye, Pierce Brosnan is chasing Sean Bean down the radio telescope in Arecibo. And actually my TA, my teaching assistant for my Astronomy 100 class, was able to be there for 6 months.
Awesome. Well, you've got all kind of connections to that place.
Yeah. So I always wanted to visit there. And it was funny because I was like 19 and I'm asking the guy, I'm like, oh man, you're in Puerto Rico for 6 months. Did you go to the beach? And he's like, no, dude, I didn't have a car and I was up the mountain. Like, I got up there and I was just up there. So he basically just hung out in the mountains of Puerto Rico for 6 months. And because I was like, oh, did you, go into, because it's maybe 45 minutes outside of San Juan. So it's close enough to the biggest city of Puerto Rico and plenty of action. It's fun. I'm like, hey, I go there on vacation. The idea of being able to spend 6 months and working there sounds exciting. And he's just like, nah, once you're up, it's like, it was awesome. But like, once you're up the mountain, you're up the mountain.
You're not coming down to go for a swim.
All right.
Interesting.
Cool. So, and also Arecibo is featured in an X-Files episode. The first episode of season 2 is called Little Green Men.
Okay.
And Mulder, like the X-Files have been broken up at the end of the first season. Spoiler alert for a 22-year-old show. Yeah, I ruined it for you. So Mulder and Scully's back teaching at the FBI Academy. Mulder's like doing some kind of wiretap thing. This is before Homeland Security. Like today it would have him, he'd be working on domestic terrorism or something like that. And he's bored, so he's still investigating aliens on the side. And he hears about that they found a signal from the Arecibo radio telescope. So he sneaks down to Puerto Rico with this other guy named Jorge, and they're running around the radio telescope and everything. And Mulder gets knocked out, and that's the first time you actually see an alien on the X-Files.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is like Mulder gets knocked out, and then
They
an alien
show
like
it.
walks. They show it, and then leaves, and then he wakes up, and it's like, well, I don't know. So he misses it.
Of course.
So that was the first time you saw an alien in X-Files, was that little green man, and that was at the Arecibo
Cool.
Radio Telescope in Puerto Rico. So, I mean, radio telescopes, you were absolutely right, featured in Contact.
I love that movie.
And there's also a brand new movie that I believe it just got shown at a festival, and I don't think it's out yet, called Arrival. And it's about first contact between humans and aliens, and a radio telescope features very prominently, and astronomers feature prominently, but it's not like an alien invasion movie. It's supposed to be like what would happen if aliens landed. They want to make contact. They don't want to blow up the Empire State Building or anything. Like, they don't want to come down and, they don't want our
just here to eat us.
Yeah, or it's always everybody wants to steal our water. And it's funny, aliens eating us. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so there's a movie called Arrival that's just come out.
Ooh.
But there's another 20-year-old movie that I'd like to recommend about aliens that want to take over the planet, that came out the same year as Independence Day, but it didn't get the Independence Day was a big deal.
The original Independence Day.
Yeah, right. I still haven't seen the new one.
Me neither. Is it in the budget theater yet? We should go check out a cheap.
We should totally, because we can pay like $1.50 to see it. Which, with the cultural impact the sequel had, I think $1.50 may be what we should be paying for it. But definitely it's in a budget. Anyway, this movie's called The Arrival, and it's Charlie Sheen as a radio astronomer.
Okay.
If you can believe Charlie Sheen as a radio astronomer.
Sure.
It's not like he sees stuff. He's like looking through all the data. And he's like, winning.
Or he's just like a total womanizer, like hitting on all the female scientists and stuff.
Right. So this is before Charlie Sheen had his big resurgence with 2.5 Men, and after his initial like big comedies that were successful. So he's got a goatee, kind of chubby. I mean, he's still a good-looking guy. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of Charlie Sheen in his mid-period. And it's a fantastic alien invasion movie. And it features Charlie Sheen as a radio astronomer. And not a lot of people have seen it. It's called The Arrival. You're going to love how these aliens walk. If you don't know what I mean, see the movie and you will.
Okay.
And I mean, Charlie Sheen, we're going to have to talk about him on the show more eventually, because he's a 9/11 truther. His father, Martin Sheen, doesn't even believe OJ is guilty. Martin Sheen believes in the conspiracy against OJ Simpson. So the Sheen family, I think they're ripe for some kind of conspiracy deconstruction sometime.
Definitely.
And we might have to leave out Emilio Estevez, because he seems like the sane one. Like Emilio, he's like the guy. He's like, he kept his original name.
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
making good movies. He's respected. He's not on some 72-hour cocaine bender and
Not that we know of.
Right. If you are Emilio, that's great. But anyway, this has nothing to do with The Arrival. It's a great radio telescope movie, with probably the science is horrible in it, but the action is great.
That's cool.
That's a good one to pick up if you're into radio telescopes. And I was looking up earlier today, radio telescopes in film.
Yeah.
And I think I saw one page about it that was pretty old. So I think when we put up the show notes at othersidepodcast.com/108, this will now be the internet standard for discussing radio telescopes in science fiction films.
The definitive guide.
Right, that you can find at See You on the Other Side for the definitive guide to radio telescopes and sci-fi movies. So, all right. The latest signal was super exciting, and it was picked up by this radio telescope in the former Soviet Union, Russia. Now, here's the news that just came out. That's probably, but this is kind of a downer.
Oh, it's going to dash our hopes and dreams.
Right. So, experts are warning that the signal might merely be interference and possibly military in origin. And now, it seems that's the case.
They're always doing that.
So the signal came from the same direction as the star system we were talking about, HD 164595, which sits in the Hercules constellation, and it's got a sun-like star. But at SETI, they weren't able to detect the signal. And so Seth Shostak, we were discussing, the face of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, he posted on his blog that both Russian news agencies and the Russian Academy of Sciences have now concluded that the signal is, quote, indeed terrestrial interference.
Okay, so first of all, am I correct in understanding that the signal actually was discovered in 2015?
May of 2015.
Right, okay. So, and they've kept it secret, and they just last week revealed to the world, right?
Well, it was mentioned in a recent scientific presentation by Russian astronomers and Italian researcher Claudio Maccioni, who chairs the International Academy of Astronautics Permanent SETI Committee.
Mm-hmm.
So they just had a presentation like this past couple weeks.
Right, but it's like the general public didn't know about it
until Monday.
That's why it was news this week, but they found it over a year ago.
Yeah. So the Russians have known about it for a long time, and it just got released at a SETI convention.
Yeah.
Like a SETI conference this week.
But they've known about it that long. Don't you think they would have disproven it by now? It's just like, I don't know.
Well, the thing is that you can go through the logs of the rest of the radio telescopes that were pointed in that direction in that same time. So if you say that, let's say it was May 16th, 2015 at 11 p.m. So you would look at the radio telescope. Okay, was Arecibo pointed that way? Was the West Virginia one pointed that way? Was the one in Ohio pointed that way?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what they did. And then they couldn't corroborate.
Huh.
So that's what makes everybody a little sad.
Oh, definitely.
So here is the director of the Institute of Applied Astronomy at the Russian Academy of Sciences.
Okay.
Now look at that. Now that's a serious.
That is.
The director of Applied Astronomy at the Russian Academy of Sciences.
Big time.
Alexander Ipatov. We indeed discovered an unusual signal. However, an additional check showed that it was emanating from a military satellite, which had not been entered into any of the catalogs of celestial bodies. It can be said with confidence that no sought-for signal has been detected yet. Okay, now that's the quote that makes Daddy cry a little bit. But, like, is this the cover-up? You know what I mean? Like, are they covering this up now?
Well, that's why I was saying, like, you'd think if they found it and they've had a year to look through all this stuff, and then it's just funny that it wasn't until they announced it publicly, and then all of a sudden somebody disproves it, Like, that's the part that I found interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and especially because the media took it seriously, which usually now when they're taking the backtracking, now the jokes are coming out. Oh, like the NPR story I just quoted from. The NPR story is like, oh, it wasn't the Vulcans. Come on. You gotta make some Vulcans joke. I hate that person that wrote that article because it's like you can't even make something clever. It's like we're gonna take something that even the mainstream knows because they know Mr. Spock's a Vulcan.
Oh gosh.
I want to punch that guy in his stupid face.
Pandering.
Well, the thing is, they have to take these things a little more seriously because this isn't the first time in the past year even that we've discovered. Not you and I.
Oh.
I mean, we've been talking about these things, but it's not like we're not radio astronomers. We're not Charlie Sheen.
Right.
We humans have discovered in the past year a couple of signals from places that, well, strange patterns that make it look like it could be a Dyson sphere star.
Okay.
So this is coming more regularly now, and they're covering it, and because the internet, it's the rush to cover it in the first place. That's why they're going to do it. Okay, so researchers just found a second Dyson sphere star, and this is today. This came.
Whoa.
Okay, so last October, they discover a strange pattern of light near a distant star called KIC 8462852. So for your lottery. And it says it was like nothing anyone had ever observed before. When a planet passes in front of the star's brightness usually dips by around 1%. But KIC 8462852 has been experiencing dips of up to 22%, suggesting that something huge is zooming past. And now a second star with strange dips in brightness has been identified. It's hard to keep saying.
When it dips, I dip, you dip, we dip.
Dip.
Dips.
So the second star, named Epic 204278916, the star is estimated to be the size of our sun in diameter, but only half its mass. So it's got the waist. It's got the waistline, but it doesn't have the weight.
Huh.
You know, I think that star got a bad rap because it's just as big as the others, you know, as our sun, but it's just not, you know, not as hefty. It was discovered by Kepler, the spacecraft, in 2014, and so they've been keeping tabs on its light curves. So light curves is an alternate word for dips in light.
Dips.
Mm-hmm. So the researchers have reported that over 78.8 days of observations, that Epic 204278916 displayed a regular dimming of up to 65% for around 25 consecutive days.
Wow.
So what could be big enough that could cause a star's brightness to change that much?
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. So there's theories about it that it could be a swarm of comets. It could be a distorted star that's going through like a Marshall cabinet.
Mwah, mwah.
Hey.
There's one for the band people.
Right. No, a distorted star spins so fast it becomes oblate, which means it has a larger radius at the equator than it does at the poles. So
It's like an egg.
that's some science. Yeah. And well, I like to refer to it as oblate.
Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, man, that thing's totally oblate, baby.
Oblate.
Right. And people are saying that it might be a Dyson sphere. You know, that's the whole thing, that people want it to be a Dyson sphere because that would be awesome, because that means that the aliens could come by and hang out.
That'd be so cool.
So maybe that's two in the same year, and plus this latest like blip in the, you know, the signal coming from space.
Yeah.
When the last real big signal, the original signal, happened in 1977. So we haven't had something like this since 1977. And they call it the wow signal.
Wow.
All right? Yeah. Wow. And the reason they call it the wow signal
This is cute.
is because when it was at Ohio State University Radio Observatory. So this is happening they call it the Big Ear Radio Telescope at Ohio State. This is 1977.
Good
And they
year.
get this it's pretty good. It's 1976 is a touch better vintage, but 77 has some quality associated with it. And they hear this extremely strong signal coming from the constellation Sagittarius. And if you know Sagittarians like I do, well, their signals are extremely strong. So the signal lasted for 72 seconds, 1 minute and 12 seconds, and then it was never heard from again.
It's a pretty long time.
Yeah. So the guy working on it like circles the signal like in red and writes, "Wow."
I know, it's cool that they have the record of that too. Like,
yeah, the picture of it. We'll put the picture up at othersidepodcast.com/108.
it's got very nice handwriting.
He does. A little it's a very nice script. When people still wrote in cursive.
That's right.
And that's the thing. What we wanted to hear was another one. You know, like we wanted another wow.
Something that substantial.
Yeah, but they just can't quite figure out what it was or anything. So in the past couple of years, there's been a new theory about what the wow signal might have been.
Okay.
From Antonio Paris,
Ooh.
a professor of astronomy at St. Petersburg College in Florida. St. Petersburg has some wicked ghost horrors, I heard, too.
Cool.
So I'd like to check those out sometime. Actually, our interview with Chris Boras who wrote a book called The Rules of the Dead.
Right.
He describes his excitement at the lighthouse in St. Petersburg. So Antonio Paris, professor of astronomy at the college in Florida, has proposed a theory that suggests the signal may not be aliens, but might be just a passing comet. Okay? And he says he was driving. He was in his car, man. And he wondered if a planetary body moving fast enough could be the source. And it just so happens that two comets, 266P Christensen and P2008Y2 Gibbs. I don't know how they name things in astronomy. It's always off. I know they have to do numbers because there's billions and billions and I just walked into the billions and billions of stars thing.
You totally
Billions
did. Oh my
and
gosh.
billions, without even knowing I walked into it. Those comets have orbits that would have put them in position in 1977 to be the source of the signal. And neither of them were discovered in 1977. So people wouldn't know about them. They wouldn't assume it was a comet because they didn't know the comet was there. So when comets pass close enough to the sun, they release a lot of hydrogen. And it's possible that hydrogen being shed in this way could emit at the same wavelength as the wow signal. So there is a possibility. Now, here's good news, science lovers. January 25th, 2017, one of the comets is coming back. And it means it can be analyzed to see if their hydrogen signature matches the wow signal. Gibbs is coming back in 2018 to see if the hydrogen signature matches. So I assume somebody's on this. I assume that this guy, Antonio Paris, is on this so that we can figure out if the wow signal that was found in 1977 for 1 minute and 12 seconds and never heard from again.
Yeah.
We find out.
Well, that's good. We have something to look forward to.
I was going to say, I wasn't looking forward to a lot in 2017. Maybe the next Thor movie.
Yeah.
Because there's not another new Avengers movie out to 2018. So, what am I going to do for the next 2 years? And there's no Doctor Who until 2017. Anyway, so, he started a crowdsourcing campaign to buy a radio so he doesn't have a radio telescope. And so he tries to get your money on GoFundMe or something.
Okay.
It didn't make it.
Oh.
So, sorry, Antonio, but you can always walk over to see if your friends at SETI will take a look for you too. So,
Yeah.
it was funny though, because people have talked about the wow signal in this kind of, about aliens and stuff like that for years. And every time I see the wow with a exclamation point after it, I think about the wow signal since I first heard about it when I was
pretty sweet.
12. And it's even funny. So the Colbert Report. So Stephen Colbert. That's the Colbert Report. Stephen Colbert in 2012 did a response to the wow
I saw
signal.
that. That's great.
So it basically was, he asked the aliens three things. He was responding to the wow signal and said, number one, we are not tasty. We are not a good tasting species. So I told you we'd get back to eating people.
We get stuck in your teeth and stuff like that, he says. That's great.
Right. We're not tasty. Number two, enough with the probes.
Yep. Okay.
We don't need to be probed anymore. And number three, he was looking for an explanation of the film Prometheus.
Well, hopefully when they get the transmission, they'll have a sense of humor.
Yes.
Otherwise, it could be very confusing.
Right. Because, what if their word for, what if they just think we got poor taste? Well, we're humans. We do have poor taste in most things.
Yeah.
Some of us more than others. And especially if they do watch the film Prometheus, which had some gaping logic holes, but so special effects were amazing. So, the wow signal has been featured, in a bunch of things in pop culture since then. And, just to talk a little bit more about these Kardashev type civilizations that we discussed. We talked about how powerful that a civilization would have to be in order to be able to send a kind of signal like the wow signal, or the second one, wow 2. So let's say, what would it be like if we're even a Kardashev type 1 civilization where we could harness the power of the entire world?
Oh my gosh.
There was a good article written about it. So here's the quote. If you lived in a type 1 civilization, you wouldn't need to worry about earthquakes, tornadoes, or other catastrophic phenomena.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Wouldn't it be nice? Right? Because we just had, Florida has its first hurricane in 12 years, doesn't it?
And those things are
Florida.
horrible.
Yeah, they are. You know, when I was a kid, I always thought that, the hurricane, like, I didn't realize that a hurricane was different than a tornado. I just, because when a tornado comes in the Midwest, so when you grew up in the Midwest, for people in the Midwest, when a tornado comes, you just run downstairs as quickly as possible.
It's terrifying.
And we never had any tornadoes really touch down in my hometown or anything like that. And my house I grew up in was like in a little valley, so I wouldn't really have to worry about it anyway. But the tornado still terrified me, and there were still some times we went to the basement when you heard like the civil defense air raid siren.
Right.
Did you ever hear that growing up? Yeah. Run. It's time to go to the basement, and we had tornado drills in school where you'd learn how to put your hands over your head and everything, so you wouldn't get hit by a flying chair or a piece of glass. So tornadoes are terrifying. So when I was a kid, I thought that hurricanes were the exact same, and I'm like, these people know for a couple weeks that a hurricane's coming. Why aren't they leaving? Do they all want to just be in their basement for weeks? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't realize that a hurricane's just a really bad storm. And it doesn't have, it's windy, but it's not tornado force wind.
Yeah.
Anyway, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But anybody that's having to deal with the hurricane in Florida now, obviously my heart goes out to you.
Definitely.
So
it's terrible.
Horrifying natural disasters like Pompeii.
Yeah.
The 2004 South Asian tsunami, and you remember that tsunami.
Oh my gosh. Tragedy.
If you want to get some idea of how that tsunami would look when it hits, there's a movie called Hereafter by Clint Eastwood. It's got Matt Damon in it too. Matt Damon. And in Hereafter, the whole beginning is when the tsunami hits a beach. So it's a really good special effects and everything of like how it would be if you were somewhere where a tsunami actually hit. And it's so terrifying. But it's a good movie. Anyway, all these cataclysms be things of the past because harnessing the power of the planet means controlling weather patterns, controlling plate tectonics, oceanic currents, controlling volcanoes. So type 1 civilizations are able to manipulate and in many ways manufacture their old world.
That's amazing to think about.
Like if we could program the rain, like if you would say this is definitely something that I would want because you would say, okay, guys, we're going to make sure there's enough rain for the farmers. That's fine. But we're going to schedule the rain so that we don't have to deal with it,
Yeah.
So we're going to schedule the rain so it doesn't interfere with our beach days.
Oh, it'd be so great.
Yeah, that would be so great. So, type 1 civilization has mega cities that stretch across the globe too.
Cool.
So type 1 it would be a global culture, like a one world kind of government kind of thing, which, a lot of people are terrified by. I always thought it was cool when I was a kid, but I can see why people would be terrified, by like coast to coast listeners and Alex Jones would be terrified by it. And then type 1 civilizations won't have war, won't have genocide because it's one people living peacefully. Single global culture that's able to handle droughts, to handle food production, to make sure that everybody has clean water. The type 1 civilization is like the Star Trek utopia that we all hope for. So the type 1, that's why Michio Kaku, I think he's being optimistic to think that we can get there in 1 to 200 years.
Yeah, that's a lot. Those are big changes.
Yeah, those are huge changes. But the idea that we might be able to harness remember China and the Beijing Olympics? Everybody was saying that they were going to, program the rain.
I don't remember that, but that's...
Yeah, that they were
like
seeding they were seeding the clouds. They were doing everything to clean up Beijing, to suck up all the pollution, and maybe the Chinese are doing it. They're taking us to a type 1 civilization faster. And for that, I appreciate it.
There you go.
So hopefully one day we will be a type 2 civilization that's able to send a wow signal back and communicate with those people that got us with the first wow and maybe the second wow last year, but that we just, that's being covered up by the Russian Academy of Sciences.
There you go. Yeah, we can only hope, right?
So for people who are asking us and they were interested in learning more about the possibilities that came from this signal that was discovered last year, well, there you go. Looks like officially the word on the streets is that it wasn't an alien signal. I, of course, like to think differently.
Yes, let's hope. We always have hope.
Yeah. You know who else likes to think differently, Wendy?
Who?
Our friends at the Singular Fortean. Let me tell you about them real quick. And
Okay.
that's a Madison blog. So Madison, Wisconsin, where Wendy and I are based too. It's a Madison blog that is also doing paranormal investigation.
Ooh, fun.
And having events and stuff like that. So the Singular Fortean features like new articles and pictures and cartoons and stuff like that on their website all the time. And I thought I'd do a quick conversation with Tobias Wayland. Tobias Wayland is a badass name too.
Yes, it is.
Like that's the kind of name, that's the name of like a star of in a TV show or an adventure series. Tobias Wayland,
Like a superhero.
Like, right. Nobody ever says the star of their adventure series is the last name Huberty. Trust me on that.
Not yet, Mike.
Not yet.
Give it time.
But he's got a sweet name. Also writes some really interesting articles. And so I took a moment to talk to Tobias to talk about his latest article in the Singular Fortean and what you can find there.
Great.
So I want you to check it out. All right, and now I'm here with Tobias Wayland, talking to him on a Friday night, interrupting his gaming session. What game are you playing tonight, Tobias?
We are playing Call of Cthulhu, the tabletop role-playing game.
Oh, man, tabletop role-playing in the world of H.P. Lovecraft. And if I remember correctly, Call of Cthulhu is the game where you have to roll against going insane, correct?
Absolutely. So, like, sanity is tenuous at best in this game, just like the greatest works of the author himself.
Oh, man. Well, I tell you, sanity is tenuous at best in most of my adventures. And we want to talk a little bit. We want to introduce the See You on the Other Side listeners to your adventures, which you do at a site called the Singular Fortean. And what is the Singular Fortean all about?
Well, sure. Well, we're the Singular Fortean Society, and what we do is sort of in the same vein as Charles Fort. We take a journalistic look at weird news stories from all over the world, and we're definitely not averse to getting down and dirty ourselves and going out and investigating things, but primarily what we're interested in doing is going out and taking a look at weirdness and then sharing those stories with everybody else.
Okay, very cool. And people can find that at singularfortean.com. And of course, the link will be in the show notes for this week's podcast. But let's give people a preview of an upcoming article to talk about the kind of stuff you do in the Singular Fortean. So the Singular Fortean number one is you, Tobias Wayland, and it's also who you joined by.
That would be my fiance and partner, Emily Bartos, who is a very talented designer and photographer.
Okay, so you kind of handle the words and she handles the pictures?
Absolutely. Like, if anybody likes our website, it's probably mostly because she put it together in a way that is absolutely stunning.
Okay, very cool. Now, you were talking offline real quick about an event you just went to where you took some of Emily's pictures, and then you're going to talk about this a little in your upcoming stuff. What was that event called?
Yeah, definitely. That was the Art of Darkness, and it was put on by the Banfield Locke Center for the Arts up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And what they do is it's an art show, and they collect paranormal themed art from all over the country and I believe all over the world. And so Emily actually had two different illustrations that she had submitted. And so we thought, it would be fun to since she had a couple submissions anyway, go up there and, kind of check it out and see what their paranormal scene's all about and kind of, check out the different art.
Okay. And so what kind of stuff did Emily submit for it?
Well, she had two different illustrations. I believe they were both colored pencil. And she did one classic Sasquatch, sort of posing in that classic Gimlin Patterson footage pose with the head turned and the arms waving by its side.
Oh yeah, you can buy like silhouettes for your driveway now. There's a certain house on the way up north, in Wisconsin, if you're going up north, heading up the freeway up to Wausau. Somebody actually has that Patterson Bigfoot like snuck out there.
That's great. And then her other piece, which actually is one of my favorite Fortean stories of all time. was of the Hopkinsville goblins. So back in the 50s, in rural Kentucky, just between the tiny towns of Kelly and Hopkinsville, there was this family on this rural homestead who reportedly were beset for an entire night by these goblins that they shot at and fought, and it's just it's a wild story. And I mean, if you look into it, it was weird enough, and they were earnest enough that the sheriff at the time took them pretty seriously. But it's always been one of my favorite stories ever since I was a kid.
Oh man, and she did some art related to that, and so that was one of the things in the Art of Darkness.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And okay, I know that you liked her stuff the best, of course. But of some of the other pieces of art, what were a couple of your favorites?
Sure. There were a lot of good designs and things, although some of the most original that I really enjoyed was somebody had put together a collection of snow globes with Bigfoot and Yeti in them, which I thought were just particularly interesting, not only for the theme, but sort of the design behind it, because I really hadn't seen anything like that before. Mm-hmm. There were also a couple of interesting installations. There's a guy, and boy, I'm sorry, I can't think of his name, but
sure.
He had investigated, because the Banfield Lock Center itself is reputedly haunted. So he had put together, he had put together a couple of installations, sort of surrounding his own forays into the supernatural. And I'm nowhere near a good enough artist myself to necessarily understand them, but they were certainly very interesting, and we should have some pictures of them in the article so people can get a better idea of what I'm talking about.
All right, fantastic. And so people can find all that stuff at singularfortean.com, and you'll be able to find a special article about the Art of Darkness that Emily and Tobias went to in Minneapolis. Okay.
Absolutely.
One more for our listeners. One more question. What was your first paranormal experience?
Boy, my first paranormal experience, when I was a little kid, I grew up in Illinois, and I remember being terrified to go to bed because I was that kid that always slept with the covers over his head, because I don't know what it was, but something would, that feeling where somebody is like digging in and like tickling you just under your ribs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would wake up to that, which in and of itself, maybe it's sleep paralysis, who knows? But after I was awake, I yanked the covers over my head, and something would be buffeting the sheets as though, like with invisible hands. It was the weirdest thing.
Oh man. So, I mean, you were like the boogeyman actually came to tickle you while you were sleeping.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty good. Well, thanks, Tobias, for joining us today. We're going to talk to you soon when you have another article, and then we'll see you hopefully at a Singular Fortean Society event when you have it in Madison. And, of course, we'll let all of our listeners know. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right, and you can find a link to that in the show notes at othersidepodcast.com/108. And if you had a good time listening today, and let's be honest, I know you did, and you feel compelled to donate, isn't there a website where people can help out?
Oh, yeah, I think there is.
Wendy, I can't remember.
It's
Wendy, can you look it up? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's hold on. othersidepodcast.com/donate.
othersidepodcast.com/donate.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And that's a great place where if you have fun and enjoy listening to the podcast and enjoy listening to the songs we put out every week, you're helping us to make more podcasts, do cooler things, and make everything better.
Yes.
And so for those of you who have donated to the Patreon, keep your eye out for some videos and some fun stuff coming up in September. And for those of you who are looking to donate, it's a great time to get involved.
Sure
othersidepodcast.com/donate. And the song this week, though, we thought we'd keep it pretty basic, because sometimes you see something that's so exciting, you don't have any other exclamation to say than, wow.
Okay, and what's the name of this week's song, Mike?
Well, that the name of this week's song is just going to be straight up, wow.
thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
Oh, it wasn't the Vulcans. And that's the quote that makes Daddy cry a little bit.
Dips. Oops. Wait, before we go, though.
Hey, what did we forget?
We love our patrons on Patreon so much. We want to thank all of them and give a special shout out to Ned.
Right on, Ned.
Who donated at the level that we're going to thank him every show right here.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, sir. We love you. And thank you for help making this show possible.
Yes. Thanks to all of our patrons and to you, listener, for listening today.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.